everyone. Welcome back to our new episode of Futurvia Minds Podcast session. I am Bruce, and today we're here with our featured guest, Fernanda Fontes. How are you, Fernanda?
I'm good. Thank you, Bruce. Nice to see you today.
Yeah, great. Fernanda is a UX designer and researcher, and she has worked professionally with organizations like the UN and companies like Dollarama. In fact, she's also the instructor of our UX design workshop. So today we're here to discuss about what UX design is, and she's going to give some advice and tips for students that may be interested in pursuing this field of study in the future. So let's off with the first question, Fernanda. What first sparked you to dive into this field of study, to dive into user experience and design?
It's been a long time. I've been working as a designer. It's now almost more than 15 years. I started actually in the beginning of my career as a graphic designer, and then back then we didn't hear too much about graphic design, UX design, and then so I started in the design field because I fell in love with like all the disciplines and what it was, but then soon I actually start shifting to UX design, and what really called my attention to actually work with this is the fact that to try to solve problems, and that's what I realized that I liked it to do, to solve people's problems, and um, you know just that, I think.
Oh, that's a great experience. And did you always know that you were gonna work in UX, or is it just like a sudden spark or something?
Shifting, because that's it. I think the world is changing, and then when you're working for a long time, you're the world is changing, and then so as I said, I started in graphic design, and then I start shifting little by little. Like before was doing more printed stuff, and then I start doing more like web design and interface for web and websites, and then shifting more to user experience, which is thinking about how people interact with things, and how's their experience when using a product or a service. So so it was something gradually that I started learning more about this, and then it's becoming more popular, this field, and then I realized that was more like about solving a problem solving, than actually just making things beautiful. That I realized that that the vision I think a lot of people have about design, sometimes it's about like being artistic, and actually it's actually a solving problem field.
That's great. Thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Yeah.
I always love to listen to professional people discovering their careers and their works. And so now let's dive into our topic term now, UX design. Many students and our listeners hear this word, but not fully understand what it means. How would you explain this word in a simple way to a young audience?
User experience, you mean? Like UX?
UX design.
UX
UX
design.
design.
So UX design, it means user experience. So it's the field that you're trying to make things easy for people to use, make it pleasant, and something that it's so easy people don't even think about. So that's basically like a simple way to describe user UX design.
And how is it different from like graphic design or any sort of visual design? How is it different from them?
Some ways there's a lot of similarity, because even when you're working with graphic design, you should have in mind like people, and I think that user experience is people-centered design, is human-centered design, or they call it user-centered, so you can call people user in this field as well. uh, User experience UX design is about like thinking always about the people, and who they are, and what are their problems, what are their needs. And when you're also doing graphic design, in some ways you also have to think about that. I think the difference is that this field of user experience is really focusing on people, and it's more labeled like that. Whereas in graphic design or interior design, you're thinking more about making things how it feels, like in a way more if it's beautiful, and it's more biased. In the user experience field, you're more based on research and real data. What you you really did research to understand what people need and what are their problems. And in graphic design and other fields of design, maybe it's more your own perception and it's a bit more subjective. So yeah.
Oh, that's a
Did
very descriptive explanation. I love that. And
Yeah.
can you give some everyday examples, some very practical examples of UX that student might not notice?
Everything that, when you use an app or a website that is it's so easy that you're just clicking and you are able to complete your tasks. I don't know if you, Bruce, you ever like use Amazon, for example, or what kind of
Yeah, for
website
sure.
do you use? So, Amazon, for example, if you think it's not like, oh, it's a beautiful website, it's so cool. Um, but it's a website that it's so easy to experience, right? You click, it's done, and it arrives to your place. You purchase it. You don't have to think so much to actually, do your purchases there, because of course this is like a company that has been in the market for a long time, and they have a lot of resources to people to research about it and to improve and keep improving the experience. So this is one example. So it like our shop, our Spotify, for example, you're listening to your musics, and then you just click, and then you have some recommendations, and then so you're just, you're going through your tasks and you're doing those things without being frustrated. So when if there's something that you get frustrated, you're using a website for like a platform in your from your school, for example, and then you cannot find the assignments, or it's really hard and you're not sure if you were able to submit, or you not don't find information that your teacher actually mentioned that they would submit there, they put in the platform. This is a bad user experience, right? Because then you have to really think, and you're frustrated and you're not sure, and it creates anxiety or other feelings, like negative feelings like that. But when it's just easy and you just click and you do it and you don't think, so that's the situations that it's a really good user experience design, UX design. Yeah.
Oh, that's really helpful explanation.
Yeah.
I hope all the listeners understand. At least I understand fully. So now we know better about UX design, and so you're a professional UX designer. So we want to ask you, what do you do daily? What do the researchers work daily?
Yeah.
What do they do? Yeah.
Yeah, so UX research or UX design, the field can be divided in many little parts, or depending on your role in the company, you can be doing research and user experience as well. But the research part is actually when you're investigating. So you are kind of Sherlock Holmes or something. You really need to understand who are the users, who are the people using the product or service, and understand their stories and their background, their context. So then you're gonna use some techniques to do this research. So the techniques can be like a survey that you can send people, or it can be interviews, it can be like just observing them. You can start like by observing your parents, for example, when they do a purchase, or someone in your house that are using a device. Maybe you can observe how they use it, and you observe how they're constrained. So it's understanding the people, their context, how they feel about it. So you can ask questions, you can also do interviews there. So there are many techniques that you can use. This is the part that the academic part, that you kind of learn how to use those many techniques to actually understand what are the feelings and the problems, and then so you can actually formulate what is the problem to solve the problems for people.
Yeah, so basically understand people is the very, very main part of UX design. S- I was just thinking, what could go wrong if the researchers don't really listen to the users? What could go wrong in that scenario?
Well, they certainly gonna create a product, a website, an app or something that is not maybe gonna work well. Maybe people not gonna keep using, right? Because when if you, I don't know, Bruce, which apps do you use the most, like for your everyday?
I would say definitely Instagram.
Which one? Sorry.
Instagram.
Instagram, yeah. So you see Instagram and then you use it, and then you know, maybe you invite some friends and then like all your friends also use it, and then you share things together. If Instagram was not working well, do you think that you would like maybe you would keep using it if it was frustrating? If you're, you know, it's not, you're not able to upload your photos or your videos, maybe you probably wouldn't, right? You would quit the app, I guess, or even your friends. So when it happens, when you don't research with people, understand what their needs, and even Instagram, they keep improving it throughout time, to adapt to what people need actually. And then so when you don't do this, you actually, people don't gonna go back, they're just gonna stop using, not gonna indicate to their friends, and you're probably gonna create things that are not um, related to them. For example, if you have a platform for the school, and people who design it, they don't research with the students what they need first, they maybe they're gonna just add like a lot of animations because they think that young people like a lot of animations, a lot of games, chats. But at the end, maybe what you needed is just a simple way for you to understand how to upload your homework or to find the assignments. And then so they didn't work in this part. So what you need to do, you're still not gonna be able to do, you know. So that's what happens when you don't uh, do your UX design.
Yeah, so understanding user is so important. You know, UX is user experience, so user is it's the very superior thing at the top.
Yeah.
I was I'm thinking into another term that is related to UX design, which is design thinking. And it's often mentioned in innovation, business, technology. I mean, you name it. How would you explain design thinking in a simple term?
Yeah. So design thinking, it's a process. I don't know if you ever use this process. I think maybe in school they don't apply it so much, but design process can be used in any field actually, as you mentioned, in business, and it's usually a process that helps people to have innovative ideas. So design thinking, it's a process, a framework with phases that are actually help you to focus on each one of them to create the solutions and creative solutions. The phases, they can vary, it can be different, you know, like you don't need to be fixed, but they have like a kind of 4 or 5 phases. So they are basically, the first phase is kind of the discovery phase, where you're trying to understand the problem, or you're understanding the people that needs a solution. So let's say you understand, like you observe that your grandparents, they have trouble remembering their medicine, and then so you understand the people, who they are, what are their contexts, what are the tasks that the tasks that they need to do. And then you understand, you define the problem. So the defining phase is like, okay, their problem is that they cannot remember the time to, you know, the medicines that they need to take. And then you're gonna then start ideation phase, which is the all the brainstorming, the ideas. So you start writing down the ideas for solving that problem. And then finally, you can create a prototype. Maybe you create like a device that beeps, or, you know, have a light to remind your grandparents about taking the medicine. So then you can create a prototype, which is a simple version of your solution. Then you can test, you can see if this will work with your grandparents, for example, if it, you know, it will really help them. And if it doesn't, then you can improve it. The same thing you can do with a website, you know, when you create something like an app. And so that's basically the phases that you go through to create. So design thinking is a process that that helps you to create a solution. It helps you to focus in each phases to create a solution.
It sounds really useful, and I believe not only UX designers would use design thinking. I believe students and other workers will also use it to solve like school projects, assignments, or I mean real life problems. How can students use this method into school projects or real life problems?
Yeah, definitely students can use this in a school. Actually, during my master's, I did a research that was exactly focused on design thinking applied to education, to K-12 education. And then some teachers actually they already implement this kind of method, and it's for students to think. They can like research about these phases, and this helps them to actually focus on each one of those phases. Sometimes you have a project to do, your teacher asks you to create something, and you're all over the place, right? Maybe your mind, you're thinking about many things, and it's hard to know where to start and how to end, and then we are all over the place. So design things helps you to actually really create a system for you and organize your thoughts. So how this could work is that you start focusing first on like understanding what is the problem, the context, like um, in my research, one of the projects that I saw from the teachers, that she asked K-12 students to spread kindness. This was the project. So students try to understand first what kindness means, and then you have to understand what are the contexts that you use kindness, and who can like benefit from kindness, and all the types of kindness. And then after, you start then creating solutions. So you define who are the people that you're going to do this project for, if it's relevant, and then you start like the designing solutions. You can start writing down solutions with your colleagues, with a group, with your team, and then after you can actually start writing, if it's an assignment, with depending on how is the project, and then you can go through the other phases of testing and making sure it's gonna work. The good thing about design thinking is that it's a process that is cyclical. So this means that it's okay to fail. It's okay if you do it wrong, because you can test and then you can fix it and then you can improve it. And that's when the innovation happens, So when you're trying to improve and going through, again, fixing it and creating, maybe changing it and checking it didn't work out, so you're going to improve it again. So that's when the innovative solution comes from, when the improving and innovating and trying again and repeating and failing, and it's okay to fail in the design thinking process.
Yes, I think everyone needs to know something about UX, that's something about design thinking, because it's not only about UX design, it's more about like real life problem solving them, and
Yes.
see our mistakes and correcting them. Two words I've heard you repeating are problem and solution.
Hmm.
So when you're working on a UX or service design project, how would you move from identifying a problem to creating a solution when there are some really difficult scenarios happening?
That's it. Using design thinking process and using methods, those techniques. So in design, use UX design, we use many methods that we call, like, you can use surveys, where you can, and then you can interviews, or you can do shadowing. The shadowing technique is like observing people, and there's many other techniques. All those techniques, it gives you data. So when you do survey, it's going to give you, like, you're going to understand maybe 60% have trouble using this this device or this like platform, or a specific, like, they cannot upload their assignments. Or so you're going to understand how many people have trouble with the number of people who have trouble, the percentage, right? And then when you do interviews, you're actually going to dig into the problems. You're going to actually understand some details of their process on how people use things. And all of those things together, you're going to pick up a little bit of everything, and then you're going to make sense of all this information. And that's how you create a solution. Because first you investigate, you really dig into what it's all the issues and the, the needs of the people, their contexts, and then you're going to put it together to start creating the solution. That's when you're solving their problem, you're creating solutions.
Yes, very, very detailed, very insightful. You have experience working with, organizations, companies, also including the United Nations. And what did that teach you about designing for different communities and different cultures?
That taught me a lot, because it's international companies, like UN agency. It's very broad, right? You're really not doing something for people like in Canada or even in the Americas, in North America, or you're doing things for the whole world. So when you're designing, you have to try to think very broad, and then that's why when you do research, it gives you a lot of insights. And different people in different parts of the world, they have different languages. First of all, they have different cultural background and context, and they also have different needs, right? I did a project, for example, with a UN agency I worked for, that was a e-commerce, a platform where they were selling some publications and training. And they there are some like people like in some countries, people in Africa, for example, maybe they're going to have some more trouble with connectivity, their internet. So you need to think that you need to create a website, and that it's very light and easy to download, so to load. So they don't, the information, they can have access to the information. So you need to think about that accessibility. And then maybe people in other countries, that because there's people from Netherlands, from India, from China, from Australia, and Canada, United States, Brazil, and Colombia. And so all of those people, they have different needs, and then you have to take in consideration and try to adapt. So this is it's an interesting thing that I've learned, to think very broad, and to think about other people, to think about people with different backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, and different needs. Definitely.
So you mentioned about people from different backgrounds have different needs.
I think that's it, listening to people, right? That's why UX design is a human-centered discipline. It's thinking about people first, and what is their needs. So an example of what I did is this interviewing people, and being able that I can get like a different people from different parts of the world to understand their needs. And then how to include this is to make like a website, an app that is simple and easy to use. So yeah, I think it's just really talking to people and thinking about their needs and their perspectives, like using techniques like observing them, how they use the platform, and if they can accomplish their tasks. And then, yeah, it's just thinking about this general context, I think, and doing all the using the methods that we use, and the design thinking process to and iterating, right? Because then we're gonna actually see if it's worked, and we're gonna test, and maybe we need to improve, and then we're gonna improve it. So
As I heard, working across different cultures, backgrounds, changes UX designs people's way of thinking about design and in a more diverse way. And speaking of contributing to different communities, I heard you worked as a research assistant for a woman in STEAM project. Well, why do you think that representation in STEAM fields matters? Like representing women or representing different fields, representing different backgrounds?
I think it's so important, because even myself, it took me a while to actually understand that I work in STEAM or STEM, and women in technology, we are not many times still in different countries, because Canada is a very forward thinking country, more liberal, and women's rights, we have that, and it's people talk about this, but in many places still young girls are not stimulated enough to actually work with those fields and be part of that. So we still tend to see ourselves not as part of this, and there's a lot of imposter syndrome that we think we don't belong. So I think it's so important to have more women participating. And then I don't think like that's it. It's not that men should be excluded, it's just that we all should be part, and it should be inclusive with women. And having more women working on this and seeing their examples, I think it's inspiring. I saw like I start seeing more women working with this, and for sure inspired me as well.
Yes, that's for sure. I think all the people should have the chance to go into the field of STEAM and learn all the studies like math, design, you name it. What do you think? How can schools and organizations encourage more students or more women to explore STEAM, explore STEM, and go
Mm.
into the field like UX design?
I think they should have maybe some special programs, or like, you really initiate girls to this, and, make sure that they feel like that they can be part of that. Also, like providing examples and stories of women that worked in this field. I think it's always interesting to learn about, maybe bringing professionals from the fields that, that they can share their stories and their challenges and how they overcome and how they are in this field now. I think this could be really helpful. And again, it's representation. So, just bringing those stories and like letting more like girls like learn about this and see that they can actually be part of that. I think that would be a good way to start.
Yes, we are advancing. We are having more people into the STEAM field, and also technology also grows when people are, expanding.
Mhm.
As technology and AI continue to grow, how do you think UX design have changed or is changing, and or will be changing?
Yeah, UX design is already changing. A lot of things are changing, right? In UX design is definitely already changing. You can see in many ways, like in the process. It changed the way we actually work in some ways. Like it makes things a bit quicker. You can skip some parts that, or not skip, but you can use AI as like almost like a partner in some ways for to advance quicker, like the research part. Um, and yeah, and also it's changing the process, right? So we are still learning because it's happening right now. But there are things like some clients, when you have clients, they are already arriving with some mockups, because before mockups, like the website, they already create with AI a website like design kind of, and they bring it to the designer to just do it. But the thing is, AI is now asking what is the problem of the people, who are the people, and how it needs to be done. Before, people, only the designers who had access to some certain softwares had access to create the websites, right? So not everyone had access or knew how to use those softwares. And then, so, but now AI is just making it easier for anyone to provide a prompt and, create a website or an app. The thing is the quality of those things, and you still need those human characteristics of critical thinking and the UX skills, like thinking about the people that are using and what is their real problem, how to solve that, to actually improve those things. So I think AI is a tool that we can use as like a partner, as I mentioned, like to help us to make things quicker, faster, but also it's making some information broader uh, for us to access. But we should also be conscious about ethical issues. Some information are not correct, or sometimes there are some hallucinations still, and then so we need to be careful. And I think that's why humans critical thinking is still very important on this part.
Yes, I mean, AI changes a lot in the field of UX design, but still one thing remains so essential is that people are still more understand people better than AI understand people. So that's why we're still here.
Yeah.
And you are skilled in both qualitative research and quantitative analysis to understand people. So how do you use these two types of research and work them together in UX?
Yeah, you said it well, like, and it's exactly UX design. You focus on the empathy part of human characteristics, right? Because when you try to understand people, you're trying to put yourself in their shoes, you try to understand what is their issue. So it's all about that, those characteristics. And that's what makes us human, and it's still very important. It's important UX design. When you're putting together qualitative and quantitative research, is that, the quantitative is what I mentioned when you use survey. So you have numbers, you have the amount of people, and then you're gonna be able to have like, an idea. For example, 70% of my users, or the people, they use mobile instead of desktop. So you know that you have to design first for a mobile um, layout. So you're gonna think about more the mobile experience. And then when you do the qualitative research, is the details of the individual's details that that matters. So the quantitative gives you how much, how many, and the qualitative is going to give you the why. Why these people have this problem, and why they cannot upload their photos, why they cannot finish their purchase, what is maybe the small issues that is happening on the way. So those two things together are very important to give you the full picture of what are the issues that you're trying to solve.
Yes, that's for sure. Combining those two types of research work is really essential. I'm thinking, why is it risky to rely only on either number or on only on opinions? What will be the consequence?
Yeah, well, numbers, you don't really know the why. You just see that X number of people cannot finish a task, but why? And then if you just use the numbers, maybe you're gonna guess their reasons. And we're gonna use our own biases again, like oh, I think they cannot finish because of this, but I don't really know what is the reason. And if you also only use the qualitative part, you actually are not sure if is this maybe one person who has this issue, or is this a lot of people, and most of people. So using only one or the other is not gonna really give you the full picture of things. It's just partial, and then can be biased, and then can be mistaken as well. So that's why it's always better to combine both.
Yeah, very, very valuable advice on those two skills. And I believe those are not the only two skills that UX design requires. I think communication is also a part of very is also a very essential part in the UX design.
Yeah.
Um, you have presented research internationally around the world, including at a conference in Taiwan. What have you learned about communicating research clearly?
Yeah, definitely. Communication is so important. And even when you're talking to people, right? And even when you're doing research, to actually listen to people and not actually ask questions that are, inducing them to give the answer that you want to hear. So you need to be more neutral. When you're presenting, when I learned what when I was presenting as well, is that I always been very nervous actually to present. Before public speaking, is not my strength. Was not my strength, at least before. And I doing this international presentations in conference taught me actually that you you actually presenting to other people. It's not about yourself. That's the main thing I've learned, is that what people want to hear, they want to learn something, that you have something to tell them, and they want to learn what you have to say. So when you're presenting, they want to learn your results, what your insights, what did you actually saw different, what is what is it that you have to tell them? It is not about yourself. And I think most of the times we are so nervous about presenting because we are actually thinking, how do I look like? Am I speaking well? Am I, do I look smart enough? But it's not about that. People actually want to learn. They want to learn what you have to say. So you have to think about how can you give the information that these people, they want to listen. So storytelling usually is a good way when you are building the story and making it more seamless for them to understand from where you started. Like when you're presenting a research, you present from what methods did you use, who are you researching with, and then you present the results. What are your conclusions? What are your perceptions? And using visuals sometimes as like to help you, to support you to do those presentations, I think it's good as well.
Yes, for sure. Communication is a skill that students is this is students needs to learn nowadays. It's so important. And another question people might be curious to ask is that for students that is interested in design and user experience and service design or other sort of technology, what sort of skills should they start building now? Just like communication and other skills. What are some skills they should build?
I am a big advocate for like building the creativity and critical thinking skills. I think those are so important. And with those two, like we mentioned before, empathy. So, those three things is like being curious, like, also I think okay, so first, I think being curious, observing people, learning what people do, how they do, and, just students maybe can start doing that. Like maybe they see their parents purchasing something online, they just observe how they do it. What is their process? Maybe it's different than yours, right? When you use Instagram, it's probably very different the way that your parents used Instagram. So maybe you observe how they do it, and you're going to see that people from different ages, they use things differently. So it's being curious and asking question as well, and asking people why they do this, and how, and or asking yourself, posing those questions to yourself. This will also help you to develop this critical thinking. Is this information correct? Because also now we have the technology that is advancing so quick, like AI, and having the critical thinking, from my studies, I find it's like one of the essential skills to have, because then you're questioning, is this information correct? Which source is this coming from? Should I trust this information? Or you can maybe dig more and do the research from other, using other devices, other platforms. And so I think, so be curious, try to practice this, try to develop a critical thinking, asking question. Like you can ask questions, if not this, what could be? Is this correct? And then with that, I think the creativity is going to come, and then being empathetic, trying to put yourself in other people's shoes. Like, there's not everyone is like the same age as you, not the same gender as you, not the same culture as you. So trying to think about the different backgrounds. I think those are essential characteristics that AI is not going to be able to take over, at least yet. And there are very human characteristics. The platforms, you're going to learn for sure technology, and you're going to learn softwares, and this is always changing, and we can always learn those skills very quick. But those human characteristics, I think they are the ones that makes us different. So I think those are essential for helping you in the design field, UX design as well.
Yes, for sure. Human characteristic, asking questions, getting to know each other, and thinking critically are so essential nowadays, not only in UX design, but also in other field of studies or in our daily life. Before we wrap up today's conversation, I have one final question. If every student watching this interview wanted to take action after hearing your story, what are three main things that they should start doing right now? Yeah.
Yeah. I think like for students that if they want to go into this field, they can maybe to build a portfolio. you could always start by, maybe you see a website or an app that is not working well or is not well built, and it's the bad user experience, the ones that are frustrating, that you feel that you cannot understand and it's not nice. Maybe you can redesign that. Maybe you can start like sketching and thinking, how would you redesign that? And if you can use some softwares, like it can maybe even be Canvas or Figma or any of softwares that you know how to use, you can design it and you can sketch it and you can improve the experience. You can think about that. And then this is going to already create your portfolio, because before you have a real experience in the field, that's how you started. You can start building portfolio by picking up a bad website, a bad app, and redesign it yourself, like thinking about the user experience and how to make it nicer. Um, Another thing is about like reading online. There's so much information now available, and there are so many resources, good resources that you can learn today. It's sometimes it's hard because there's too much, but try to find the good resources to learn about user experience, UX design, and you know the theory part, because this helps you to become a good uh, designer. Yeah, I think just building those skills that I mentioned to you, that you can just develop, like being curious, observing people, because everything you're building for people. So you cannot just like start designing things based on your own subjective conceptions of what you think is right or wrong. So I think really like thinking about the people that you're building. So this can be even part for your portfolio, is like creating personas. Personas is when you think about the characteristics of people, and they are like kind of a fake character that you create based on all the people that's going to use your app. So you can create personas, maybe they from a group, age group, like I'm creating for Gen Z, and then so majority are girls or boys, and what are the activities. So you kind of build those cards of personas, which is the users. So it shows that you are doing your research and thinking about the people that you're designing for. I think those are some of good ways to start.
Yes, very valuable advices. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you for sharing your experience today. And for everyone who's still listening, thank you for watching. I will see you next time.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
No problem. Bye.